Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and here's what I'm dealing with. I got plumbers upstairs. I'm not talking too loud. I don't know what they got going on, but you could hear all sorts of noises going on up there, so just get ready, okay? It's coming. In the meantime, let's talk about our good old buddy, Elizabeth Warren, and this guy, whoever he is. My colleagues and I are investigating how terrorist groups like Hamas are able to gain funding using cryptocurrency. The U.S. needs to take action to address this problem. Well, what I would be interested in is if she and her colleagues would investigate the cryptocurrency that flowed from FTX to the Ukraine and then back in the pockets of all of your buddies in Congress. That's the investigation I would like to see. But see, they're not really talking about that. Then, of course, we had Hester Pierce, who used to be known as Crypto Mom on this channel, but is now known as the crypto person at the SEC who could have blown the whistle but did not.
Join us to talk about crypto regulation, debates over ESG, and so much more. SEC Commissioner Hester Pierce, she is one of 2 Republicans among the 5 SEC commissioners. Good morning to you. Love to get your sense of where you think the state of some of these regulations around crypto really stand right now. There's been so much speculation, even in the past several weeks, about where a Bitcoin ETF might land. There was a moment, as you, I'm sure, recall, where a report came out, erroneously apparently, that one would be approved. That would be the BlackRock one. But a view that, given some of the things that have happened in court recently with the SEC losing, that maybe the SEC is now more open to approving one of these types of funds. Is it?
Well, good morning, Andrew. And I can't say whether or not the commission is ready to approve a Bitcoin exchange traded product. I've been thinking we should approve one for the last 5 years. So the logic for why we haven't has always mystified me. The court case obviously is an important factor in the landscape, but I can't guess as to my colleagues' approach to this topic.
But the reason I ask is there's a sort of a speculative fever taking place throughout Wall Street and other parts of the crypto world that believe that given those court results or those losses, if you will, or specifically that one loss, that it would change the thinking of the other commissioners at the SEC. You spend time with them, you talk to them. Do you see any shift in terms of that type of thinking, just even generally speaking?
I really can't speak to what we're going to do on the Bitcoin exchange traded products. I can say that generally the agency has not been very good when it comes to anything related to Bitcoin or other crypto assets. And look, I hope that every day I hope that they'll wake up and they'll think, you know what, we need to take a more productive approach. That hasn't happened yet, but I'm, of course, hoping that it will.
But I guess the question is, should the public take anything away?
So basically, I'm going to say nothing and continue to say nothing and not actually help. I'm just going to say I wish I could help.
The fact that a BlackRock or a Fidelity or somebody of that size, scale, perhaps reputation, is applying for these things, that somehow is validating this space in a way that perhaps maybe some of the smaller firms that had applied for such types of funds earlier did not?
Well, I think it's a reflection of the fact that there are a lot of firms that think the public is interested in these kinds of products. Again, you know, people have to be careful about trying to read the tea leaves of what agencies are doing, and I'm not going to contribute to that. I'm just going to say that, you know, obviously we're seeing more and more interest from firms in these products, and I hear a lot of interest from investors in these kinds of products as well.
Okay, so a bunch of nothing. She may as well have just interviewed me. Now, I think John Deaton lays it out here. He says one of two things. One, the SEC has capitulated on the spot Bitcoin ETF an approval before the end of the year, or certainly before the end of the first quarter of 2024 is a certainty. Or this is more what I believe. Or the SEC is gathering. Of course, it could be either one, but with Gary's history, he says, or the SEC is gathering more information during these discussions to come up with a different reason for denying the spot ETF, thus creating the greatest head fake rug pull in SEC history. Personally, I wouldn't put number 2 past the SEC or Gary Gensler. In fact, if Larry Fink weren't one of the applicant's proponents, I would expect number 2. But with 10 trillion assets under management, his voice is pretty loud. Well, that and the fact that he is the incumbents. Remember, this is what this has been about all along, is Gary wants the incumbents to win. So if he hands the ETF to the incumbents, they do win. And that's been Gary's mission from the beginning. Now, this is Kathy Wood. This is probably an older clip, but I wanted to play it for you. She got in Bitcoin at $200,000 worth of Bitcoin at $250.
Ever since we went
you can see why none of them will address the elephants in the room, like the fact that the Homeland Security met with the 4 Satoshis. She can't afford to.
Exchange standard. He said, it's a rules-based monetary policy, rules-based monetary system. And I said, and he said, I may not agree with the rule, because he was thinking more in terms of inflation. So you'd want a price rule as opposed to store of value, which quantitative. He says, but it's okay. It's a rule. And we need to get back to this. And I said to him, how big could this be? And he said, well, how big is the U.S. monetary base? Now, Bitcoin was $250 at that time. So it was roughly a $6 billion network value or market cap. And I said, he said, how's the monetary? I said, it's $4.5 trillion. He said, there's your answer. I said, really? And I immediately, I put a lot of money, especially our analyst, Chris Berniski at the time.
Hello, Chris.
You know Chris.
Yeah.
So our analyst, he was the one really doing the work on the paper, and hand selected Yassine, which has made us very happy. But he, your question again, I lost that.
What was your moment where you realized, which you've explained?
So I put, I don't think I've ever disclosed this before, but I put $100,000 in.
$250.
Yeah.
I don't know how many Bitcoin that is. Was that 400 Bitcoin?
I don't even know. And I wasn't counting at the time.
All right. And then you got this. Here's Fred Rispoli. He was on with Thinking Crypto talking about a potential Ripple SEC settlement.
While these losses for the future of this lawsuit and the settlement potentially being in the works.
I think the SEC is trying to feel Ripple out as to what they're going to pay or not pay. I think what they're going to try and do is they've got to do a delicate dance of trying to figure out how to convey we're actually willing to pay more than we probably should if you cut this off and we settle this now totally, finally, and forever, versus the hardline approach, which is, you've got something on paper right now, tentatively for 770 million-ish plus, but we are going to fight that tooth and nail. We're going to get that reduced. That's going to get lowered. Sure. It's which track do they want to go down? And I can see the merits to both tracks. There's settlement negotiations, I think, that are happening, and I think we're going to get this done sooner rather than later, but we'll just have to see.
Boy, I hope he's right. Now, there's a lot of controversy going on. Wait till you see. I dropped it in my private group. Those are Twitter Spaces, I guess, last night. And I recorded a bunch of it. But it's basically around, they were all arguing over this automated market maker. And then, before I play this, I'll play a clip. This guy, I think I can play it. This guy's accusing one of the casino coin guys of being in a 3-letter agency.
It doesn't have to mean anything, right? They're probably pulling the data from somewhere else, whatever. If I have a big customer like Ripple, I'm doing an audit for them, I would make sure that all my public sources reflect the correct information. Is this really a downer? I don't think so. However, it's a fair question to ask.
Sorry, Daniel.
That's pretty much
Lord, what a fucking sham that was. So thanks very much for that marketing could you possibly be more employed by the Israeli government?
Wow. Now, I am certainly not saying that anything like that's going on, but I'll tell you this. I've got it's 12 minutes of the most unbelievable. This guy is like hitting him with everything he's got. And again, I'm not saying anything about the casino coin guys. I'm just saying it was 12 minutes of like my mouth wide open listening to this guy telling him that he's in a 3-letter agent. I'm like, what? But I put all of that in my members group, folks, because it belongs in there. But this is the AMM is what got the arguments started. And there's voting going on, is my understanding. That's not really my bag, but here's kind of how about AMM.
For those who are not familiar with AMM protocols, what an AMM actually is. Well, AMM, as briefly mentioned, stands for Automated Market Makers, and AMM algorithms have been widely adopted in decentralized finance, DeFi exchanges or DEXs, decentralized exchanges. Different from order book based exchanges with AMMs, you don't match a buyer and a seller. So when a trade is executed, there's no buyer seller pair. Instead, on an AMM, the trade is executed according to a conservation function, or what we call as bonding curve. So the price between two assets is actually algorithmically determined by this bonding curve. So in that sense, when an exchange user comes in and make a trade, this person is actually not trading with a so to speak, trading counterparty, but instead this person's trade is trading against the so-called liquidity pool. And we have, on the other side of the story, we have the liquidity providers who will first and foremost put some funds, some liquidity into a pool, a smart contract pool. And based on the state or the balance of the reserves within the smart contract, the conservation function would automatically calculate what's the next what the exchange rate should be. As such, with AMMs, you can guarantee some kind of this kind of continuous liquidity. So you wouldn't, and when an exchange user comes in, he or she would not be afraid that the order wouldn't be taken, because the order will always be taken continuously. The price will be automatically determined by the bonding curve. So that's basically.
Okay, and then there was this little clip also.
Is the upcoming, in fact, yesterday we released the AMM amendment, the Automated Market Maker based decentralized exchange. And well, you would say there are a lot of AMMs out there, but this one is not just an AMM, it's an innovation. There is an unprecedented auction mechanism feature that we have in this AMM that provides utility to all the ecosystem participants. And it really solves one of the most critical problem in the AMMs today, and that is the problem of impermanent loss. So our auction mechanism reduces the impact of impermanent loss, which is beneficial for all the ecosystem participants, including the liquidity providers, the arbitrageurs, as well as the traders. So
Okay, and just a reminder, the rest of this clip right here, I'm going into the private group now, but the rest of this clip is in there, and you're not going to believe it. There's 12 minutes of like, woof. It got hot, and this Derek got him. I'm not sure who this is, but boy, did he go. All right, I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family that these are some treasonous bastards, and if there's any goodness left in this country, they need to pay Thanks for listening.